Good afternoon, everyone. I think we'll begin with our webinar, keeping the times that we have. Okay, so let me begin on this webinar. So, on the occasion of the International Plastic Bag Free Day, I welcome you all to the fourth webinar of the FICCI's B4E, that is Business for Environment webinar series. Today's webinar is on rethinking the plastic paradigm, plastic waste management, and alternatives to plastic. Previously, we had three webinars. The first one starting off in the month of March, April, May, and June, one in each month. The first one was recycling as the seventh resource for future economy. Second one was on coexisting biodiversity and business for long-term sustainability. And the third one on the World Environment Day, it was on harnessing benefits of nature-based solutions for ecosystem restoration. Now we are back with the fourth, the series that is on plastic waste management and alternatives to plastic. We all know that plastic has emerged as a marvel during the recent COVID-19 pandemic, where it was adapted to various critical uses, including protection of frontline workers from virus. Despite the considerable benefits that the plastics offer for the future and the present, the present approach to their production, use, and disposal raises concerns about the environment and human health. While avoiding plastic waste generation is overall preferable, environmentally safe management of plastic waste once it is generated is very crucial. And the enabling environment that guidelines and regulations provide in doing so are also of utmost importance in the current scenario. Businesses, being the largest producers and users of plastics, are introducing sustainable practices and are innovating and rethinking themselves to facilitate a shift towards effective plastic waste management and finding sustainable alternatives. Today's webinar aims to provide perspectives of multiple stakeholders, public and private, while addressing the production and use of plastic, positive actions being taken by businesses and industry, and to provide alternatives to plastics, highlighting the learnings from global experiences, if any. So I welcome you all once again. We have a distinguished set of speakers for today's session. Mr. Tushar Patnaik is the Corporate Head, EHS, EPR, and Sustainability at Dabur India Limited, taking care of India and SAARC countries. We have Dr. Sundar Balakrishnan, is the Secretary of Indian Compostable Polymer Association, ICPA, and GM of India Nature Tech India Private Limited. Dr. Smita Mohanty, Director and Head Principal Scientist for Laboratory for Advanced Research in Polymeric Materials at CPE. Mr. Akshaya Rath, he's the co-founder and CEO of EcoX. And Mr. Ajay Mittal, Director of Climate Change Programs India and South Asia for earthday.org. So without much ado, let me invite our first speaker of the day, Mr. Tushar Patnaik. Over to you, Mr. Patnaik.
Thank you and good afternoon, Mr. Vikram and all the MEN panelist members for different areas. So today, yes, today is the day, I can say, one of the 3rd July, the International Plastic Free Bag Day. And what you told last in the month of April to May, whatever the topics you have been covered, and today what the topic is there, if you correlate the thing, there is very interrelated topic, because if you see, it's all related to sustainable journey and to achieve that target of net zero whatever the topic has been discussed and today which we have been discussing, these all are very, very important and very, very correlation with that topic. And today we are talking about rethinking of plastic paradigm and plastic waste management. Coming back to the point, if you see starting from 2021, uh, after the month of October and till date, there is a lot of changes has been done by Ministry of Environment and Forest and CPCB regulatory body. If you see the changes, we think that the changes is in a positive direction. First, whenever things is to be, one of the things are going to implement, normally people take it and accept it. It is a huge problem. But as an industry, I can say, thinking from a nation point of view, thinking from a global point of view, these are positive states I can which is implemented by the government. Why government think that at the present scenario, if you don't think today and work start today, maybe in the next 30 to 40 years, it is very difficult to survive the universe. Because day by day, the pollutions of plastic is drastically increasing. And if you are not thinking at present how to minimization of a waste of plastic waste management, second, sustainable waste of plastic management, third, to reduce the virgin plastic approach of 3R method, reduce, recycle, and reuse. There are many things has been implemented in last 1.5 years and 2 years. Though it has been started as EPM rules in 2016, but the momentum has very much progressed in the last 1 and 2.5 years. Apart from this EPR, there are a lot of things which is going to be a challenge for everybody in the year of 24 and 25 in terms of reuse. Next is your recycling and recycling plastic content. When I call it as a challenge, when there is a challenge, we should think that there is a more and more opportunity in the market. That is one. Second, lot of things is taking initiative to reduce the alternative plastics. But there are many things. If you think this is not a very simple journey, it's a very, very challengeable path. First, we have to see that what are the alternatives that government has already from last year, 1st July 2022, ban of single use of plastic. Many things which has not been recycled and is littering on the environment that has been taken and as a single use of plastic, and many things has been banned. But the things which has been banned is not the end of the journey. I can say it is the peanut, it's the only tip of the iceberg. But wherever it is possible to reduce the alternative plastics, everybody is trying to reduce that plastics. But it is not a simple journey. But it is not a simple journey. Because when alternative, okay, for a government prospective view, regulatory point of view, yes, they are implementing many things and implement. But implementation on the state level, depending upon the prioritize, it is slightly difficult. But as a industry, as a consultant, as a experts, and everybody, today India is working on a various aspects and challenges, which do not think even in globally also, many countries is not accepting the targets and challenges, which India is taking the target in the upcoming year of 2024 and 25 and 26 and 27. These are many things. I think once the panel discussion will move, will be more discussion, the topic on the thing, but the concept, but the thing is that alternative of plastics, if you see, is a few rare in the market. I can say it is very, very difficult to remove the entire plastic from the universe, but it can be reduced, it can be minimized to a sustainable way of management and alternate to the plastics. Things has been started, but it will take a long journey to achieve that target. I think once the discussion will go on, will be more discussed on that point.
Thank you, Mr. Patnaik, for that statement. Moving on, I would request Dr. Balakrishnan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vikram. And Very good evening to everyone. Can I share my screen if that's okay?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Uh, it just says host disabled screen sharing.
No, I think you should be able to do it now.
Okay, okay, sure. Yeah, got it. Thank you. Just give me 1 second here. Okay. So uh, I basically represent the Indian Compostable Polymer Association, ICPA. And ICPA, we are a set of individuals and organizations committed to bring awareness about bioplastics. We represent raw material manufacturers, converters, distributors, and we are affiliated to other global bioplastic organizations such as European, Pan Pacific, Australian, as well as the BPI in the US. Now, when we look at bioplastics, this is probably the word biodegradable is a highly greenwashed term. You must be seeing a lot of people talk about these words of bioplastic, bio-based, biodegradable, compostable. Essentially, when we talk of compostable plastics, or I would use the word certified compostable plastics, they are materials which break down into organic constituents in a certain composting environment. And there are standards to which compostable plastics are certified. So in India, for example, we have the ISO 17088 standard, which is basically tested by CIPET and approved by the Central Pollution Control Board. So companies who are manufacturing compostable plastics have to meet this standard. And you have a whole variety of applications today which have come out in compostable plastics. As you can see, right from a very simple application of a bin liner to coatings, bags, injection molding products, mulching films, food packaging, thermoforming. So typically, compostable plastics are now being used as alternates to most single-use plastic application. Now, this compostability refers to an end of life situation. Now, there are also materials which are called as bio-based, which refers to the beginning of life of the product. So essentially what bio-based talks about is where is the carbon in the material coming from? And if that carbon is coming from a renewable feedstock, then you call that as a bio-based material. All bio-based materials are not necessarily biodegradable or compostable, and all compostable materials are not necessarily bio-based. So as far as the Indian government is concerned, there is a certain certification scheme for compostable plastics. And this certification looks at different components. The one component is the carbon to carbon dioxide conversion. Then you have a certain disintegration, ecotoxicity, earthworm toxicity, plant toxicity. So these are some of the studies. Now, typically, compostable plastics or bioplastics are essentially made out of several polymers. A very common polymer, which all of you would be aware of, is polylactic acid, which is also called as PLA. Now, PLA is a renewable resource material, which is fully biodegradable and compostable. But you could also have a material like PBAT, which is polybutylene adipate copolymerized with terephthalate polymers, which is essentially fossil fuel based, but which has biodegradability or compostability as an end of life. And then you could have cellulose as esters, which are basically bio-based, but it need not be compostable. So just to give you an overall landscape of how you can have polymers which are bio-based and not compostable, and also bio-based and compostable. Now, what are some of the challenges which actually gives into a certain opportunity? Typically, compostable plastics did not come into existence because there was a problem with plastics. The challenge is that there's a lot of food waste or organic waste which is present today, which is from a post consumer perspective, which is potentially getting landfilled. And as you know, landfill is a very poor repository for this organic waste. So When you take the organic waste and convert it into a more value add product, which could be composted, and you get a manure out of it, then that creates a certain opportunity. In this case, the main function of a compostable plastic started in saying that how can you take that organic waste from its source and move it to a certain composting infrastructure. So if you were to collect your food waste in plastic bags, then there has to be a process of separating the waste from the bag, which then what do you do with the bag? So you had another problem. That's when compostable plastics industry started evolving to say, can we make a product which can be used to collect this organic waste and take it to composting, so that along with the waste, the bag could be potentially put into the composting pile and it gets completely converted to manure. Having said this, especially in the last 10-15 years, there's been a lot of insurgence on food service, like quick service restaurant culture has really come up in a big way. And as a result, a lot of plastics today are being used in single use food contact applications, right from a plate to a cup to a glass to a coated paper to a lid straw. And making all these products as compostable and integrating that with the end of life infrastructure creates a huge opportunity for the compostable plastics industry to create a zero waste model. And this is how, for example, you could have a partnership scenario. So for example, compostable products or bags, they are watertight, they are stain resistant, they have grease resistance, and then they have a good sealing capability. Now, when you look at a paper bag, it is biodegradable and compostable, but paper in principle does not have a good stain resistance, grease resistance, or a water resistance property. And paper by itself as a product is not sealable. So when you take a paper bag and either laminate it or extrusion coat it with a compostable polymer, you get a product which is also biodegradable and compostable, but has the good properties of both compostable bags as well as paper bags. So this is a classic case of how technologies will essentially combine together to get a better product in the market, which can provide that value. Now, in terms of industrial composting, a lot of debates going on in terms of where are the composting infrastructures. I mean, if we talk about composting, and what I would like to clarify here is compostable bags do not require any specific composting infrastructure which has to be built. Today, whatever we do with our food waste, and please understand that plastics only account for 5% of the waste stream. More than 40% is the food waste or the organic waste, which has a bigger problem to handle. So essentially, these compostable bags align with natural composting, municipal composting sites. And as you can see, I'm just going to skip this. There is I'm just going to go to one slide here, which, yeah, talks about the current composting infrastructure available in the country, where this is as taken from this Central Pollution Control Board website, that there is enough composting infrastructure available in the country. The challenges really for us is how do we take these products from the source in a segregated condition to these infrastructures. Okay, now coming back to some of the process of industrial composting, which essentially happens because there is a certain aerobic bacterial activity which takes place, which takes the temperatures to a certain point, and then the biodegradation process starts happening. There's also studies done, life cycle analysis studies, which talk about compostable carry bags having definitely a better LCA performance, and this is also available on the Central Pollution Control Board website. And definitely composting creates value add products. It's not like landfilling. Landfilling is more a process where you just keep dumping it, and there's a lot of anaerobic activity in landfilling. There's no air. Whereas in composting, you actually create value added products. Typically, there is an 80% volume reduction of waste. So when you talk of composting, if you start, you get about 80% volume reduction, and you get a value added manure as well. And the benefits of these compost, it can be used as a nutrient source for plants. And there is also proven data that shows that it actually improves the soil workability. It improves the soil water holding capacity, and it's very good alternate to typical soil amendment products. So when you talk of a closed loop, today everyone is talking of circularity, circular economy, and typically what is being advocated by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is also talking about how do you build circularity into what we do. And compostable products help build this circularity. So when we first look at this whole cycle here, you start with either an agricultural input or it could be a petroleum based input. There is a certain product which is made. From the product, you basically convert it into a compost once you collect the waste, and then this compost is applied back into the soils, and from here the product is remade. So compostable plastics build that circularity in whatever we do in terms of providing that closed loop. This was a project that ICPA conducted with BASF, Kalyani Municipal Corporation, Krishi Rasyan in the West, and with support from the West Bengal government, to look at the Kalyani project, where there was a community-based composting setup being done, and it was essentially there was a lot of education, awareness, and supply of these compostable bags to a local community, and then shown how it can be composted. So as you can see, these bags were used by the local households to collect all their organic and food waste. There was an awareness program which was conducted on a continuous basis, and how after 3 months we could see that the entire bags along with the food waste was converted to a value added compost. Now, coming to processing, one question which typically comes up is, okay, so if we use compostable plastics, then do we have to change equipment? Do we have to change our machinery? And the answer is no. You can use your existing plastics. I want to show you some videos here. So this is a typical blown machine which is being used to make and this is again another small video which talks about a sheet paper coating. These are all conventional equipments which are being used for regular plastics. And as you can see here, this is a cup which is actually made with a compostable PLA coating inside, so it provides the same performance as a conventional plastic. This is also some more products that you could see. This is a blown film extrusion. This is a thermoformed sheet line, which is being used to make cups. Yeah. So what is the way ahead with compostables as an alternative? As I spoke about the circular economy, today, a lot of what's going on is very linear. So you manufacture, make the product, use it, and dispose it. And you can build circularity through several ways. We can either recycle, we can reuse, we can refurbish, or if you look at this side of the left hand side of this figure, you can talk about how do you convert it into a feedstock, how do you compost. So these are different ways. So you can have chemical recycling. For example, you can take PLA and depolymerize it to a lactic monomer, or you can take PLA and compost it and create a biological form of recycling. So essentially, compostable plastics build in that whole circularity. What are some of the advantages? Obviously, as I told you, a lot of applications are today coming out with compostable plastics. And as you see in India, in the last 3 to 4 years, ever since the government came out with approving compostable plastics as alternates to single use, there is almost over 200 companies who are certified by the Central Pollution Control Board, tested by CIPET and certified by Central Pollution Control Board to manufacture and sell compostable plastics in India. So that's number one. Number two, we have a host of applications, right from film, blown cast, extrusion, lamination, sheet, profile, blow molding, injection molding, thermoforming, which also shows that the product has spread into a large variety of applications which could be potential alternates to conventional plastics. And these equipments, these applications are done on equipments which is exactly what is being used for conventional plastics. Probably there's a very minimal change you might have to do, like maybe add a drying system or something like that, but nothing major to process compostable plastics. There's also a lot of work going on the downstream side in terms of creating the infrastructure, and the government has also been very supportive in terms of approving this infrastructure creation. And finally, these composts have also started going into the market, creating a certain value for making those composts. So there is a certain value in the compost being used as a soil amendment product. Now, when we talk of accessibility, typically there is a certain way in which you have to create the awareness. So obviously there is a awareness creation that has to percolate right from the policymakers to the state authorities, and there has to be a clear differentiations of the various alternates. See, today what we believe as an industry is compostable industry is one solution to a plastic challenge. And again, I want to say that plastics are great materials. I don't think we are trying to challenge the fact that plastics do provide a lot of impetus. The problem is when you talk of single use plastics and short lifespan disposable packaging, where it's very difficult to collect and recycle, then you are looking at alternates. And even there, compostable is one of the alternates. You have paper, you have jute, you have cotton. There are so many other alternates. So there has to be a differentiation there. Coming to infrastructure and segregation, there has to be some support from the government in terms of looking at how do we do color coding, how do we segregate these materials so that it's easy to be taken into composting sites. The third point is the accessibility of the raw material, because in India currently there are no base raw material manufacturers of materials like PBAT or PLA. All the base raw materials are imported into the country, and if there can be a fairly simple policy to do this, then that would help in growing the industry even further, and also support manufacturing for these basic RMs like PLA, PBAT with certain technologies, and maybe some partnership with the government could be looked at. And then looking at the supply chain, it's very important to have a certain supply chain where there is complete transparency, right? Because in the compostable value chain, you have the base raw material providers, and then you have a set of compounders who take those base raw materials and convert it into compounds, because you can't take a PLA directly and make a product. And then you have the processors, and then you have the end consumer. So there is, in this, what happens, what we are seeing is some states, for example, there is a policy in the center which talks of compostable plastics being approved, and then there are some states who have also banned some of these materials. So if there can be some alignment in this regard, that would also bridge the gap and help in creating a very sustainable model. And what I would really like to conclude and say is compostable plastics are also becoming more value added. See, today we are talking of applications like liner bags, carry bags, but there's also a host of other applications. For example, laminates, which is a big subject, is also now being looked at with compostable plastics. So the point is that compostable plastics can be merged or can be created as hybrids with other products that can create more value added materials. And you have a lot of standards globally. The Indian government is also using the ISO 17088, which is clearly defined. And compostable plastics are exempted from the minimum thickness. So there is no restriction of minimum thickness as compared to as like a conventional plastic. And definitely it's a value added product. You don't require any special equipment, and it can be used in it helps supports the plastic industry, and this creates circularity as a whole. So With this, I just want to conclude, and once again, I want to thank Vikram and the team for this opportunity, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Balakrishnan. That was a good overview of the compostable plastics and their advantages and usages. We have some questions, but we'll take the questions at the end once all the five
Sure.
speakers have spoken. So now, moving on to Dr. Mohanty.
Thank you.
Uh,
Uh,
yeah,
uh, can I be permitted to share my screen?
yes, please. You should be able to do that now.
I think Dr. Sundar, you have to. Okay.
No, I think yeah.
Yeah, now, yeah.
Is it now? Okay.
Yes, it's visible now.
It's visible.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so at the outset, I would like to thank Vikramji and the entire team of FICCI for giving me an opportunity to speak in this forum. So it's all about rethinking the plastic paradigm and plastic waste management and alternatives to plastics. Now, if you see the global plastic waste generation, we are still much less. Like you can see, this is a recent data statistics which we have collected. It's nothing but 3.43 metric MT. So, and you can see the major production of the thermoplastics, starting from PET and then HDP, PVC, LDP, PP, PS, and minuscule quantity, what you can say, of compostable plastics, which Dr. Sundar has already shared. Now let's see what is the status of plastics consumption in India. Now, if you see the consumption in India, this is a recent source. 40% is approximately is PP, and then which is followed by HTP 19%. Then you have 18% is PVC. Then LLDP is 17%. 6% is LDP, and you have to the tune of very minuscule percentage, that is 5%, 0.55%, I think they represent of in case of your compostable plastics. And if you see the CAGR percentage, we stand at exactly 21% in million tons. Now, so as regards to the plastics waste generation, if you see the waste generation now from 1.6%, we have gone to 3.46%. So what is this 3.446? So there is a growth rate of CAGR growth rate of 20.7%. It is all because of during the COVID period, plastics were the real saver because we were using many kind of materials like your the entire PP kits and everything were being produced, and there was a huge amount of quantum of plastic waste generation also was there in case of your plastic during the COVID scenario. Now, as regards to EPR, now after the EPR targets have come up, as you can see here, there are very clear classification of 4 different categories of plastics. Like we have a rigid category plastics, which falls under category 1. Then we have a flexible plastic packaging of single layer or multi-layer, category 2. Category 3 is for your MLP. Category 4, they have again segregated as regards to compostable plastics. If you see the classification, now you can see the majority of them, the pink color is your flexible plastics. Then followed by you have 62, as you can see, 62 to 93.87. This is a recent data statistics which I have collected from the EPR portal. Then followed by you have a category 1, then you have a rigid plastic, and then last one is your category 4, 10,883.08 TPA is your compostable plastics. So what is the recycling scenario? Let's have a look at the recycling scenario. Then we can understand that what exactly happens in case of the recycling of the plastics. Now earlier CPCB rate, what you were seeing, if you see the CPIT CPCB report of 2015-16, then at that point of time we had 60.6% recycling capacity. Like India was probably the major, we had a major, component of recycling sector, and thanks to our rag pickers and all. So 60.6% was the recycling scenario. And then subsequently over the years, if you see, so 2018-19, it got reduced to 43.7. And now if you take the statistics of 1920, it is 29.3%. So what is the reason that the recycling, the recycling factor is going down? Because whether because the plastics are taken as a refuse derived fuel, or it is being used where it is used, or it is incinerated. So why is the recycling sector going down? I mean, why is the percentage of waste which is being recycled is day by day, the percentage is dropping. Now, if you see the quantified data of UL end of life sectors, majority of UL 94.5% we have in mechanical recycling, followed by co-processing in cements is 3.63%, waste to oil is 1.46, waste to energy 0.97, then you have industrial composting still at a very lower capacity 0.31%, and co-processing in steel industry, that is one more scenario which has opened 0.04%. Now let's have a look at the PWM rules. All of us know that the PWM rules have been revised, but if you see, it started way back in 1999, and then subsequently we got many kinds of PWM rules which got revised every now and then. So what is that? Now the first recycling rules, it mandated the restricted use of polythene bags, that is 20 micrometer bags or less. Then 11 again, a national blanket ban on the plastic material in sachet for storing, packing of selling of gutka, tobacco, pan masala, etc. Then recycled carry bags needed to have a BIS specification. Uniform thickness shall not be less than 40 microns. So these are all the rules which we came across in 2011. And subsequently, what happened? In 16, we increased the plastic carry bags 40 to 50 microns. And then maximum thickness was 50 micron for plastic sheets, minimum thickness criteria not applicable for again for the compostable carry bags. Now again in 2016 we had a mandate of EPR. So way back in 2016 EPR was introduced, but EPR now, if you see, the EPR regulation have come into place, and everywhere in the dashboard, if you see the CPCB portal dashboard, we have a proper mandate of your EPR. So collection of plastic waste management fee through pre-registration of the producer and importers to promote plastic waste for road construction. So this was highlighted during 2016. And then again, we had a defined, criteria for the producers, for the retailers, for the generators, as well as for the ULB. Then subsequently, we had an amendment again rules in 2018. So what was that? It was basically phasing out of the MLP, which are non-recyclable or non-energy recoverable or no alternatives. So every now and then government has been trying to see to it that we do not have a problem of plastic pollution. Our rules are perfectly intact. Yes, there is a rule which exists, but it needs proper redefining. It needs to be implemented on the ground level. Now let's see current status, that is your status of waste management as on 2021-2022. So what is that 2021? There was, if you recall, during World Environment Day 2018, there was different, there was a huge, declaration, clarion call for banning the single-use plastics because they are the real polluters. So it was concluded that few of the single-use plastics needs to be banned. So accordingly, if you see the manufacturing, import, stocking, distribution, sale, and many of the around 19 products has been banned. So among them, we have the plastic sticks, like you have earbuds, balloons, plastic flags, then you candy sticks, ice cream sticks, polystyrene thermocol. Then from 1st of July 2022, all the cutlery items, wrapping or packing films like sweet boxes on the cigarette overwraps, then you have invitation cards, straws and stirrers, EPS, roadside banners. So these are some of the single-use plastics which were banned. Then subsequently, we had a better regulation of your EPR. That was because we need to embrace a circular economy. So everyone is talking about circular economy. So how we are going to embrace this kind of circular economy? That was the major thrust was on the processing of the plastic waste. Then again, annual targets were given to the PIBO. That means producer, importers, brand owners need to have their annual targets on the plastic waste they are producing. Then there are obligation of reuse, recycle and use of the recycled content. End of life disposal also was defined. And some of the key stakeholders includes the CPCB and the SPCBs, as well as the plastic waste processors. And some of the certificates were also issued. So you can find an entire dashboard or a portal, EPR portal, where in you get the exact statistics of the PIBOs, exact statistics of how much the waste is being contributed by each state, how much waste is being produced, what are the criteria of waste production or your end of life option, whether it goes for mechanical recycling or it goes for any chemical recycling or it is going in cement cleans. So all the detailed statistics are again available. Now, you can see here, as I have already shared, again the type of plastics have also been mandated. Like if you have a rigid category plastic packaging, that falls under category 1, category 2 again for the flexible ones, category 3 is for the MLP ones, and category 4 is for so these are the mandated targets specified for the reuse of the rigid packaging or your recycled plastics, fulfilling the EPR obligations through recycling and compostable plastics. The remaining EPR target needs to be fulfilled with the UL options. And so accordingly, if you see a typical EPR working model, like a plastic waste producer, brand owners and importers, they generate the plastic waste. Then this plastic waste is again segregated and channelized through local bodies and other channels, and it is being processed by the plastic waste processors, and you need to get any EPR certificates for that purpose. So for implementation of a typical plastic waste in a city, what we need to have basically, as you might have noticed that recently government has been giving a lot of thirst on creation of MRF, that is material recycling facility. So what is that? So in that, like in several forums, it has been discussed that the source segregation in India is lacking. So it's the same thing what needs to be propagated, like a PWM model needs to be divided into 4 components. First is plastic waste recycling and management. Then you have a material recovery, because other than plastics, there are other wastes as well. Nobody sees that. But because the major quantum of litter which we notice in the plastic in the litter is your plastics. So municipal dry waste needs to be collected in the form of, like you have a paper or you have a plastics or you have household rejects, any post-consumer plastics or packaging waste, old clothes and other things. Biomedical waste, again, it needs to have a separate segregation. Biodegradable municipal waste, like when you have a kitchen waste, cooked or uncooked waste, or any vegetable market rejects or your garden waste, that needs to be collected separately. Then you have a hazardous waste, that is your sanitary napkins or your diapers, used diapers, etc. So all these kind of things we need to separate it out, we need to segregate out. Then the component 3 is a institutionalization of the MRF in the governing bodies. Then component 4 is we need to have awareness programs, we need to have education, we need to educate the people. So that's how the typical PWM in a city can work. Now let's go to, so these are all about the plastic waste management and recycling criteria. Now post the SUP bans, we have numerous SUPs, like my previous speaker, Dr. Sundar has already shared that compostables are also one of the criteria wherein this can fit into the 19 categories of products which are banned. So for example, you have a plastic cutlery. You can go for typical type of alternatives, like you can go for a stainless steel or melamine, which is available plant based. Now majorly bagasse based things are coming up in the market, majorly bagasse based. In the airports and counters you'll find bagasse based items are being sold in the market, where it is an alternative to the single use plastic cutlery. Porcelain based you need to have. Then compostable polymers are also one of them, but this requires again bamboo based and paper based or compostable polymers. It requires a due certification from CPCB as per ASTM 6868, or it is as per ISO IS 17088. Now, similarly, if you see the plastic straws, many items it comes to SIPET for certification. Okay, so plastic straws, like you have stainless steel straws can go into that, bamboo straws can go, compostable straws. Nowadays, a lot of compostable straws are also coming to us for certification purpose. Even you can have glass straws or paper straws. So you can also have different kinds of alternatives to the straws. Now let's go for earbuds. Now earbuds, wooden earbuds or cotton swabs with bamboo sticks. These are some of the alternatives. Even for PVC banner, you can go for a recyclable or a corrugated material. Compostables can also be taken into consideration. You can go for canvas also. Even instead of banners, let's have a modernized phenomena of LED based. Wherever cost effective, cost is not a major criteria. Instead of going for a non-biodegradable PVC banners, let's go for a LED banners that can be also a reusable material altogether. Now, wherever, how do we simplify the selection of these kind of alternatives? First is, like one of the studies which Dr. Sundar has shared, that we need to have a LCA based approach. Yes, so we are currently doing an LCA based approach for different kinds of alternatives. So we are halfway under in the study, and shortly you will be finding that with the association with UNEP we are doing that study. So plastic cutlery. So in the plastic cutlery, what we are going to decide, like how much climate change is it going to put if you are going for compostable ones, if you are going for paper ones, or if you are going for reusable ones, whether it is stainless steel or you take it melamine or porcelain, whether it is, how much is the carbon footprint, how much is the climate change or water depletion. Because in drought areas, India, water drought has been a major problem in the country. So water problem has been a major problem. So if we are substituting any kind of single use plastic with a reusable items like stainless steel or porcelain or anything, so what is the footprint you are getting, how much water depletion you are getting, what is the detergent source, like you anyways you are washing it for proper hygienity, you need to wash it with the detergent solution. So what is that? So those kind of factors can be decided through a life cycle approach, and possibly in Indian context. If you find, many of the LCA based studies has been done in European context or in US based, but very minimum studies has been done in Indian perspective. Currently we are doing it, and we'll be coming out with the report very shortly. Similarly, rigid amenables, like what we are promoting here is that instead of a plastic wrapper in the sweet boxes, go for a multi-use bag, go for a multi-use box. You can use it, and fully, and then you can multi-use it, and then you can go for end of life, go for recycling it. So importance on recycling EPR based on MOEF notification. So like carry bags. Now currently carry bags beyond 120 microns has been introduced in the market, and you can go for compostable. So make it, reuse it, and then cloth bags wherever it is required. You can also go for cloth bags, and the key deciding factors is that you are promoting recycling and sustainable plastic waste management if you are using the carry bags beyond 180 120 microns. Now otherwise, industrial composting facility as an end of life option, otherwise washing it where water is not a problem. Now, so these are some of the eco levels, like you are going for a thermocol decoration. So instead of that, go for corrugated paper, go for nature derived materials, go for a fabric based banner or LCDs. So you can use that, all those things into the as a matter of fact. So these are some of the things, like some of the global developments which you can see here, like your Diageo has, in Unilever has come out with major eco bottle, which is nothing but the collaboration one, like a paper coated with a compostable ones. Similarly, Lecta, ITC, they have come up with a biodegradable coating. Then L'Oreal has come up with a cardboard tube. Stora Enso with a grease resistance paper board tube, which uses 70% less plastic. Paperboard toppers have also come up. Then you have edible wrapper packaging paper, like with KFC has come up with different types of edible ink to print the colorful patterns. This cutlery items, it is very famous, Bakey's, which is a Bangalore based company, which you can find that this is a edible spoon which is made up of sorghum with wheat and rice flour. So you can eat it along with the ice cream. Similarly, the edible cup, like kapufi in Bulgaria. Other type of things, like already we know that natural fiber based composites are being prepared. So in that, 30 to 60% of bio-based wood fibers are introduced into fossil-based feedstock. And then you can go for 3D printing application or injection molding or extrusion. So biocomposites also we see in case of your automotive. Similarly, Dell has also replaced EPS by bamboo, wheat straw, or cardboard packaging, and some of the plates and bowls. As you can see in the left-hand side of my slide, that this is very common in India, where everywhere in the eastern zone, especially areca palm leaves are being sold as a, these are being sold. So here, this kind of material is being amply propagated. Similarly, bamboo based straws and other things which you find it as the alternatives of the single use plastics. So what are the ways forward? Go for innovation in selection and design of alternatives, but you need to assess it. Go for a life cycle based approach. Adding a eco level will lessen the visibility of other levels like LC, cradle to grave. Promoting sustainable recycling business model. Yes, government is promoting recycling business model, but we need to have a proper design. We need to have a proper end, that the recycling needs to be, it has to have some value addition in the recycled grades. Introduction of recycled content in the SUPs. Then we need to have availability of recycling facilities. If you see from the CPCB portal itself, we found when we are studying it now, recently we have taken up a study. We are assessing the recycling facility available in the entire country. We find that apart from Indore or MP, who wherein they are managing the plastic waste in a very nice way, and they have a system of managing it. But other states, we do not have enough recycling facility. So that is why we find much, the waste management is not proper in many of the states. Now adopting chemical recycling techniques. Then another thing, so say no to littering, which is a major thing. And industrial composting facility. Yes, today we are having industrial composting facility in India, but still this needs to be enhanced, because at the end of the day, right now, if you see the compostable manufacturers in CPCB, registered manufacturers is now to the tune of more than 230, 240 odd, which is likely to increase. So we need to have more of industrial composting facility in all the cities, and methods for compostables needs to be devised. At the end, we need to have some financial incentives with subsidy and funding support. Of course, wherever R&D, still we are importing the raw materials. Why not we have a technology here in India? Why not the researchers, they combine, they give their opinion, they give their entire technology to the industries, so that the manufacturing capabilities is being established here, the synthesis methods is being established here. Now, so we need to embrace the alternative solutions without affecting the business. So that is all. At last, I would like to thank FICCI once again for giving me an opportunity to speak in this forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Smita, for that elaborate presentation on plastic waste management through EPR and showcasing so many options as an alternatives to plastics. I'm sure in the coming years we will see a lot of similar products in market and industry taking those up. Thank you once again, Dr. Smita.
Thank you.
Moving ahead, I would request uh, Mr. Rath to make his speech and presentation on the subject.
Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, Mr. Rath.
At the outset, let me thank you, FICCI, for giving me an opportunity to speak on this forum. Really very, very interesting observations by Dr. and Madam Mahanti. A lot of things to learn, really, as a plastic substitute or advanced technology need to be implemented in this space. But being a plastic waste management player in the industry, I would like to invite your attention the way EPR or PWM rule as such evolved in India under MOFCAC and Pollution Control Board. So I pointed some key successful factors which has really helped, and the way EPR implementation results are visible, say after 3-4 years. So first of all, I think made easy by making them into categories instead of 7 or 8 different plastic material types. So we talk about category 1, 2, 3, 4. That is your rigid, flexi, MLP, and compostable plastic. So that made the more easier for the industry to comply the EPR route. Second is it says brand agnostic. So obviously that might be a step one in initial stage. Going forward, things will be more complex. But yes, making it brand agnostic, it has made life easier for the PIBOs to meet the compliance norms. Third is they have made this time geography neutral. So obviously, there are a lot of debates happening. There are different school of thoughts in this process. That once we are talking about geography neutral for primarily category 2 and 3, you will see the major cities like capitals, Delhi, Mumbai, kind of, or say this Karnataka is Bangalore, Chennai, where we have already multiple hillocks, as legacy waste. So obviously, I think government has an eye to clear it up before the normal CNT fresh waste can be collected to the normal process through participation of ULBs. So that way, if you look at it, really help this geography neutral for 2 years. What CPCB has allowed PIBOs to meet their EPR target. So thereby, we can see, I think the heights of hillocks are getting reduced month on month in major bigger cities. The other key successful factor which I also appreciate is government allowing incineration for category 2 as well. So invest to oil waste to energy plants or cement plants. So that way, if you look at they are the major contributors who can help reduce plastic waste by using legacy waste or RDF to generate electricity or steam or power, the case may be. So that way, if you look at, these are the 4 key successful factors which has really helped, and also help our bureaucrats to showcase this in G20 forums across the globe wherever it's happening. And a lot of countries are eyeing at implementing the EPR structure in their respective countries by following the interesting implementation framework what government of India has done so far in last 5-6 years. But I think the real acceleration has happened in last 3 years. And that way, if you look at the real data points are being collected, which varies from the data points what CSC and CPCB were talking a year before or 2 years before. Real figures has come into 3.4 million tons or so. I think by next year, where the data point as of now available from almost 24,000 entities in terms of PIBO will be definitely tripled or quadrupled. So I believe there the data points will substantially give an input to make analytical decisions. So apart from these key successful factors, I believe the next target or additional target which is getting implemented from 25-26, that is your use of recycled content, the percentage of around 25% by most of the non-food grade packaging, and with the help of FSSAI with some food grade packaging, definitely will be a very good initiative wherein this recyclable plastic circular economy will definitely get an upgrade. Now coming to the challenges, as we all know, ULBs are the legal owners of this scrap or waste in any of their jurisdiction. But how do you fund these ULBs? Where do they get fund? Today, if you're putting so much of efforts clearing the hillocks and at least making our bigger cities more cleaner, how do we help the ULBs to get funded? So that is where market linkage from their MRFs and from their collection centers will definitely be a challenge, where they should be able to monetize the kind of material they collect from their respective jurisdiction through the existing process. So that is where e-commerce can play a role. And companies like mine, which runs a digital platform to do waste commodity trading as well for EPR trading, will be more helpful. And the multiple such companies should come, and I believe that will be help to monetize, and ULBs will be able to leverage, and with that fund, they will be able to build more infrastructure in terms of collection centers, in terms of MRFs. There are a few examples which I have seen in many states, which has already happened and implemented. The one I've seen in Odisha, where self-help groups, primarily for the women group, been given the responsibility for running the MRFs, and that I think experiment for last one and a half year has really yielded better results. So similarly, I have seen in Uttarakhand, particularly for Haldwani and Nainital area, there are certain SHGs who started working on this. So that be one area where implementation of waste management, primarily plastic waste management, from collection and transportation and door-to-door collection from both residential, institutional area or marketplace areas, will be really a good challenge where we will be able to address. Then I believe many states have started putting up or constructing new MRFs. So I think, yes, once we clear the hillocks to process the day-to-day waste, we should have enough places where the proper segregation can happen. And also we can leverage e-commerce tools to get monetary benefit, which can be used to increase the infrastructure in respective cities and tier 2 and tier 3 towns. And that will be really helpful to address the issue. Apart from that, I believe there are not much collection centers which has formally government has put in. And as we believe in last 2.5 years, there are a lot of interest for entrepreneurs are showing to get into the waste management industry itself. So as we know, waste is no longer waste. Waste also can create wealth. That way, if you look at there are enough tractions in the waste management industry, there could be opportunities not only for creating infrastructure and using that as a business opportunity. Also, this could be areas where people can put in collection centers, integrated collection centers. Also, it can be putting on 3R centers or material recovery facilities, and small waste to oil plants. That is what really not geared up as of now. I believe there are almost 100+ waste to oil plants which has got given approval from respective state pollution control boards. And I believe once there is a proper guidelines available from government to sell their outcome, that could be any kind of fuel, could be diesel or petrol or whatever the oil they manufacture, if they get a proper guideline and the mechanism to sell in the marketplace, probably there will be more and more entrepreneurs will get into that, because that doesn't cost much. The investment to start in waste to oil industry is very, very less. So that's, I thought, my thinking on plastic waste management scenario, how the government has performed so far, and the key successful factors and a few of the challenges. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rath, for stating out the successful factors and the issues that the industry faces. I'm sure ministry and the government is working to address all the challenges, because the focus now is on making this sector, the recycling of plastic and waste, a priority sector. In fact, it is already a priority sector, but in the coming years, we'll see a lot of push to make sure that this sector succeeds. Thank you once again, Mr. Rath. Now calling upon our last speaker for the day, Mr. Ajay Mittal.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vikram. Thank you, FICCI team, for the opportunity. It was wonderful listening to all the previous speakers. They really highlighted a lot of important points Dr. Smita, your presentation really covered all the important aspects and gave us a very good overview of the plastic waste scenario in the country, and you highlighted a lot of important alternatives that are available. So now, considering the time is short, I would like to share some of our experiences at earthday.org, where we have a greater focus on end plastic pollution as a campaign. Every year, Earth Day has a theme, and one of the themes in previous year for Earth Day was end plastic pollution, where we focused on end plastic pollution as a theme, and we have seen a lot of responses from people who commemorate Earth Day activities across schools, colleges, that there are a lot of initiatives being taken to work on this issue of plastics. I think the good thing about plastic pollution is that it is very visible. As one of the speakers also said, it's very visible as a problem, and that is one reason that a lot of masses relate to this as a problem. There are other climate and environmental issues, some of them which are not that visible, and there is less sensitivity among people about this thing. But on the side of plastic, you will see, especially in the younger generation, there is more sensitivity, and there is that is leading to some action being taken by this thing. But probably that is not enough, because as some of the speakers also shared, a lot of rules and compliance already exist to address the issue of plastics in a better way. But I think there is a lack of strict implementation in certain geographies. We have seen case studies of within our country only. There are areas where better management, better recycling infrastructure is actually we are able to deal with this problem much better, not just plastic, but entire waste problem much better. And today, when we are talking more about circular economy, it gives such a huge opportunity for entrepreneurship. I think that is where also we are seeing a lot of entrepreneurs coming forward to create recycling infrastructure, create alternative products, create more circular business models. There is so much innovation happening. There are so many new products which are in the market. But what needs to be done is that we need greater investments for them. I speak to some of the entrepreneurs because we promote green entrepreneurship as entrepreneurs, where we encourage young people who are coming up with solutions to address some of the environmental issues. We promote them and we help them to grow and get more visibility as a solution. And we see all of them lack investments. They need more investment. I think that is where I request organizations like FICCI to think more on these lines. How can you support some of these ideas to scale up faster? Because that's really going to help a lot of these solutions to provide sustainable and scalable solutions to grow. And third, I think what is also very important is to also the government needs to be more vigilant about some of the greenwashing products. Like there are a lot of products which are in the market which are not actually which are being promoted as alternatives of plastics, and general masses who have all the good intention to be part of the solution try to fall into this loop, because these products are more visible, they're more readily available. I think that is where the government has a bigger role to play, also to control some of these greenwashing solutions which are there in the market. Overall, I think there is a need of a greater mass movement is what I think, because the kind of problem that we are facing in terms of climate change right now and all the environmental issues, it's more visible. The kind of extreme weather events that we are seeing right now, all of this is just pushing things to the edge now, and we need a mass movement. I am very supportive of the idea of the Mission Life, which Government of India is promoting. I believe that movements like this will help masses to become part of the solutions, because if we look at the ban which happened last year, and it's 1 year to the ban of certain single-use plastic items which were considered as high littering and low utility items. In certain geographies, if you see, the success of these measures is very, very limited. We will still see a lot of those materials still in use in those places. I think that is where strict compliance plus also participation of citizens, I think this is very important, and it's where civil society, our role is also important, is that we are creating more awareness, we are reaching out to more people to comply to some of these solutions and also adopt the alternatives. Alternatives not in terms of just the products which are alternatives, but alternative practices which are very important. Unless we change some of our behaviors and become more conscious, I don't think we will be able to address the complicated problems that we are dealing in terms of environment and climate change. So I think this is a great initiative by FICCI. I hope you continue doing such initiatives, and the network would love to participate and take your messages to a larger audience through our huge network of schools, colleges, and other institutions that we deal with. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay. And we commend the good work that Earth Day does to make sure that our environment and planet is safe for us in future. Thank you once again to all the speakers. We have 15 minutes for any Q&A. I see some questions which have been posted by our participants in the chat box. Meanwhile, I have one question. I have a couple of questions for some of the speakers. Dr. Balakrishnan, you mentioned about compostable plastics, and there is a research. I'm not able to recollect who did that research, but they mentioned that compostable plastics leave out microplastic or microparticles in the environment, similar to the way plastic does. Right, as they don't break away or they don't disintegrate if the conditions are not ideal. So what are the steps that the industry or the processors should look at to make sure that the conditions under which the compostable plastics um, are disposed of or disintegrated are met and in an efficient manner?
Sure. So the first thing is when someone talks of a breakdown or plastics getting disintegrated into fragments, that usually happens when you use an additive technology. So typically there are biodegradable, so-called biodegradable plastics which are available where you have a certain additive. It could be a transition metal-based catalyst which could essentially break down your polymer. So what happens is the molecular weight of the material falls and these essentially start fragmenting. Now, these fragments are what actually creates microplastics. When we look at compostable plastics don't form microplastics. They are essentially thermoplastic, like a polyethylene or a polypropylene or any material. They are just structures. The chemistry has got a carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen in the molecule. And because of that, these materials break down. So there is scientific studies done to show compostable plastics do not create microplastics, but you are right, there are certain forms of biodegradable plastics that do create microplastics. And so we have to differentiate between the additive based technologies and some of the technologies which are fully compostable, like a PLA or a PBAT material.
Thank you, Dr. Balakrishnan. Next is any one of the speakers can answer that. We all know, and in fact, Dr. Smita also mentioned that the city of Indore is very successful in managing their waste and waste segregation. The reason she mentioned was that we don't have enough recycling facilities in other cities so that we cannot replicate it. But apart from the recycling facilities, which I see a lot of cities now gearing up to, what are the other issues that has limited the proper management and segregation of waste the way and Indore has done it? Because the example of Indore goes on to internationally, as in globally, people talk about the city of Indore. But why only Indore? Why not other cities and the other cities? Maybe not tier one cities, but tier two, tier three cities, which can replicate this model. So, anyone from the speakers who would want to? Mr.
I think,
Patnaik, you have your hand up.
yeah. I think, sir, you have rightly said, this is a very good question whenever I'm going to any conferences or anything. So this is a similar question is coming up. The first thing is that government has done many years rules and regulations, which is good for the nation. Second, if you are coming to why you about to Indore city, when you are talking about anything to be implemented on the ground, the two important thing is that one is education, second is awareness. And third thing, is a smart city. Indore has been rated as the best smart city in the country. Because if you see the entire Indore city, the dry waste and wet waste is collected separately. And the dry waste is going to the recycling center separately. There is no mix of the waste. That's mean that collection of the waste from the source in two ways, dry and wet waste. But if you compared with the other state, that level of awareness or that level of things is not coming up to that. So recycling is a big issue. When there is a mixed waste, the recycling will be more difficult. That's why if you see Indore, the entire facility is coming, dry waste, wet waste is going to be a different center. So that's why Indore is taking more very good in case of a smart city and doing up a waste management is better than in any of the states. Other states are coming up with that speed, but not with that speed of what Indore is doing. Slowly, because of the competition among the smart city, other states are also taking the initiative. They are doing some kind of things on their initiatives, but it will take some time. But yes, the important factor, whether in anything, if you start up with a circular economy or in terms of a single use of plastic or in terms of anything, education and awareness, I think one of the most important factor. When people will educate and source of segregation is if they start studying, the more of a recycling will be very, very easy. And nowadays, if you see, starting from an example, very good example, from a residential society, people are dumping all waste into that. And measure and all the waste will be, it cannot be very difficult. And major people are segregated, people are dumping the food waste also. Segregation of the food waste from the dry waste and make it a recycling purpose, which is a very costlier affair. That's why recycling centers are there, but that people are involved is that. And that awareness, if so long as we have to educate an awareness level, India is a very vast country and the highest population in the country. So the education awareness level is important to take forward this kind of initiative, which as government formed it will take a long time. That basic thing is we have to create awareness among the societies, among the school, colleges, industry, so that the things will be scale up more rapidly.
Thank you, Mr. Patnaik. Anyone else has any comment on this question?
I do agree with Mr. Patnaik, whatever he has said, because we had been to Indore recycling cluster very recently. Last year we are traveling across the country to see the what are the recycling facilities which is available, how it is being managed, and what we noticed is that the collection, the source collection, which is very important part. Like Bhubaneswar also, where I basically belong to. So Bhubaneswar also is a smart city. It is also a smart city, but the mechanism of source collection of the waste, what we noticed in Indore, is completely different. So I think that is where the point lies. And what happens is that the dry waste collection, the wet waste collection, all these things are practically, it is in a very well managed form in Indore, what we noticed. And here what we see that everything is being dumped in one particular, like dry waste, food waste, all your kitchen waste or anything is being dumped into one packet. And that is why what happens in the recycling area also, separation becomes a very difficult, sorting, then shredding it, and all these things becomes very difficult. Whereas and the recycling facility, see, majority of states, they think that we can go for plastic waste to roads, we can go for in cement cleans, and all these things they are using it, or in the form of RDF. So recycling facility is also, it needs to be enhanced in the tier 2 cities, so to see that it is being amicably recycled. Technology is there, like going for upscaling, like you have upcycling and downcycling. So majority is for downcycling. Now time has come, we should go for, if we are opting for mechanical recycling, let's go for something that is upcycling of the products, value addition something. Or chemical recycling needs to be promoted, which is very less in India. Only 3 or 4 right now are working, actually practically working.
Thank you, Dr. Smitha. So I think we should go to the questions that our participants have asked. So do we have any commercial, like as an example of commercialized usage of um, compostable plastics or alternatives to plastic in FMCG sector?
Yeah, I think as Dr. Smita had mentioned, straws is a classic example, which is we can see a lot of FMCG companies right now with the bent straws that go along with the Tetra packs in the back. Either they are paper straws or certified compostable plastic. So you have brands like Amul, Parle, uh, using these materials. So that's one application. There's also a lot of applications in the e-commerce where you have if anyone would order from Swiggy Instamart, you could see a lot of their deliveries are coming in certified compostable plastic bags. I mean that so it is definitely a lot of applications are coming out in the FMCG space.
Mr. Patnaik, any examples from Dabur you want to quote?
I think Dr. Sundar has told the rightly said. The classic example is that straw. When in 1st of July 2020, the straw has been banned, which is used in the Tetra Pak. That's a plastic. Immediately that has been converted and people are adopting paper straw. But while we are replacing something with the plastic, we have to think that whether it is a sustainability practice or not. Switching to a paper straw is not sustainably advisable, because when you are going and thinking for an environment, paper is not. And later on stage, if I'll see, Dabur has already adapted PLA straw, with Dr. Sundar said polylactic acid. Now in all the straws, though I know the commercialization of PLA straw in India, the demand is very big, but in that demand versus supply is less. So we are already converted into polylactic acid, PLA straw and paper straw. One, the more and more it will consumption and the production will happen in India, definitely it is the best alternatives to a paper straw. And if a comparison, it is not only only the alternate. In India, we have to see that one is the cost factor also, because India is a very vast country and people, starting from lower class to the higher class, if you make and choose and making the straw to a higher cost. Now what I understand and what I seen in my company in polylactic acid, which is a completely replacement of plastic straw, and the cost is very similar to that. But whereas in case of a paper straw, in a paper straw, if you are asking, the one straw will more than 50 paisa, whereas in polylactic acid it is less than 20 paisa. For a straw of 30 paisa is a huge cost in the Euro GC. So that is a classic example here. Dabur is working on various fields in terms of reductions of plastics, but the journey is very it's a tedious journey. We have to go one by one. Randomly, you cannot change the things like change in case of many flexible packaging, also converting in the compostable straw. So that the infrastructure and things are there. So slowly it will be changed, and definitely it will change to the complete picture of the is this waste management, whether it is a single-use plastic or compostable store or something like that.
Thank you, Mr. Patnaik. Taking on the next. Though under the current plastic waste management rules, there are certain targets for collection of recycling of plastics, considering the sizable quantity of PET is getting downcycled to other products like t-shirts, sports, shoes, roads, etc., which cannot be technically recycled. Should we not promote sustainable packaging options by giving incentives to producers and consumers rather than using plastic in such products which cannot be recycled? So anyone who could answer this?
Okay, sir. I will answer to that. If you see the production's capacity and production of plastics in India, what you exactly see by 2040, the production of the plastic will be doubled, and by 2050 it is 2.5 times. The one way we are saying that we'll do in a circular economy, and if you ask the demand of the plastic, in the one of the statistics, it has been said that by 2050, it is just 2.5 times. So we have to balance in between that. When you are talking about reductions of plastic, then definitely you have to see the reduction of the virgin plastic. How you will do the reduction of the virgin plastic? More and more plastics into the circular economy if will come, then the virgin plastic will reduce. That's why government has imposed a regulation by 2025 and 26, 30, 10 and 5. The category 1, your recycled content is 30 and your flexible is 10 and the third is MLP is the 5. For that, everybody has to be geared up because, okay, people are converting this plastic to t-shirt, there's nothing harm because plastic, you know, it has to be degraded. It will take more than centuries. It will take 400 to 500 years. Exactly, if you think India has already got the freedom in 1947. The plastic we used in 1947, still it is lying on the landfill because to degradable to the plastic, it will take 400 years. That means we think how to reuse a plastic and more recycling thing, rather go for a linear economy, we think for a circular economy, and that way other part also we have to decrease the demand of the plastic because there are various things. If you start discussing on that, it will lead to other things also. But recycling and rethinking reuse of plastic, that will be more in a circular form. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult. Packaging, when you're talking about packaging, for a secondary and tertiary packaging, you can think of that. But again, if you see when you're talking about recycling of packaging, again, the cost is also a major factor because when you are selling a product of less 50 rupees and recycled product, it will more than 70 rupees. The question is here arising, one thing we are doing to reduction of virgin plastic. Why the recycled plastic is costing more? That is also another question because we have to see, we are staying in India. And if we just see the kind of a population, we have to see that cost factor, quality factor, and other factor we have to take into account. But a food safety packaging in the primary packaging, yes, that is already given clearance by FICCI. It is pending on BIS. Once BIS giving the clear signal, then the recycled packaging in the food packaging also, the target of 30% in plastic, recycled plastic content will be better for all the industry. But at present, many of the companies have started in that form in secondary and tertiary packaging.
Thank you, Mr. Patnaik, once again. We are just 1 minute away from our time, and we have quite a few other questions also. Unfortunately, we won't be able to take these at the moment, but we will note them down and take it up with the respective speakers and seek a clarification or seek a response to these questions. So my apologies to the participants for not taking all the questions at the moment. But thank you for posting these up. We will take this up. Right. So we have come to an end of this 4th webinar of the B4E series. And we are thankful to all our speakers here for their views, for their thoughts on the subject. And we hope that we take your recommendations and advice further and work towards a cleaner and a greener environment ahead. Usage of plastics and plastic management is something which industry takes in very critically, and FICCI has been working on it. So we thank you once again. Today we heard from an industry PIBO, we heard from an association, we heard from a government agency, we heard from a processor and for a not-for-profit organization working towards betterment of the environment. So we have, in fact, heard from all the critical stakeholders of this sector. We hope all our participants benefited from this webinar, and we look forward to having you in the future such webinars also. I thank my speakers once again, and I thank my team for organizing this. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Vikram, and
Thank
all
you.
the panelist members.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.